Thank you very much there, Doctor. I always love your enthusiasm and all that good stuff that you bring to the table. I told you last time I was here that made me feel like I wanted to go home to the house and get my shoulder pads out and get back on the field. So it's indeed a pleasure to be here. I won't hold you too long today. I don't want to bore you. I don't want you to get sleepy on me and all that good stuff. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit and give you some of my visions and some of the things that I've been able to do. And it's been great. It's been a great run for me. But it's a new era for me now. It's time to move on and transition to some new stuff, and I'm doing that. And it was a great run when I was playing football, but now it's time to move on to bigger and better things. Before I go any further, I just want to make a few acknowledgments, if I can do that, if you don't mind. I want to make sure that I acknowledge I got my mother with me. I call her the mayor down in Richmond County down there in Hamlet, North Carolina, where I'm from. So I got my mother up here with me today, Hattie Williams. Now, you can believe what I tell you. Hattie Williams knows everybody. Anywhere in Richmond County, you go to my mother, she'll tell you all about it. So we also have a good friend of mine, a friend of hers, and a friend of mine, of course. I guess they don't call it boyfriend and girlfriend anymore. They call it significant others, I guess. Philip Owens, 24 years in the military in the United States Army. So I think you know a little bit about leadership. I got my good friend there, Tim Oxendown from Black Belt in Limousine. Good friend, he's a family, extended family member. I got my man T.J. Johnson with me, my longtime partner when I came back from playing football in New York, New Jersey, with New York Giants when I lived in Raleigh from 95 to 99. He was my golf buddy, so he's been my golf buddy for about 20 years also. So I'm happy to see him here. And also I want to thank the ladies. I call her the Dream Team. I think Christine Hayward said it best, the Dream Team. And when I had a meeting with them earlier, unfortunately the doctor wasn't there at the time, but with Michelle Rogers and where's Sandra, Christina Hayward, of course, the Ray of Hope lady. She's the catalyst of this new regime that's coming out with this giving hope and ray of hope to a lot of people throughout this country, throughout this state, throughout the country, throughout the nation, throughout the world. I also want to acknowledge one more guy. I know everybody was a little late walking back in here. I guess we're looking at that fancy car outside. Randy Hayward from the Tesla. We want to thank them for coming by this afternoon, too, to stop by on us. So my topic, who will I be? Who will you be? I started out a long time ago, ladies and gentlemen, on a journey. I think about the quote, sometimes different quotes, adages that I use. The best way to make a dream come true is to wake up. Make your dream a reality. You talk about leadership. You define that, or you look in the dictionary, encyclopedia, or whatever, or Google it up on your phones or whatever. Leadership. And they talk about true leadership as a person who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. What is the definition of leadership? It's when you get an individual or individuals to buy into one's concept. It takes special people to be a leader. You just can't be a leader every now and then. You got to want to do it. And you got to lead by example. Anybody can talk a good game, but you got to lead by example. It reminds me of Napoleon Bonaparte, the great leader from the Emperor of France, military man many years ago, when he said that leaders are the purveyors of hope, the ray of hope. The ray of hope. You're talking about taking opportunities, making the best of your opportunities, having hope that anything is possible. You can believe in yourself, that anything is possible. I'm a living example of it. I've lived that life. I've had opportunities to do a lot of great things, but I believed and I achieved. And I always go back to it again, who will I be? We all have choices here. We all have choices, yeah or nay. It's no happy medium now. It's no in between. It's either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And I had made a decision many years ago that I wanted to do it and accomplish something. It reminded me of Max Lucado, the spiritual writer, when he talked about leadership, and he talked about the three elements I thought was interesting. He talked about patience. He talked about understanding. And he talked about acceptance when you're talking about in a leadership role. It was a story, I call it the monkey story. And it goes as this. It was a man and his wife who wanted a pet. And so this one particular day he came home and the wife had bought a pet. When he walked in the house, he come to realize it was a monkey. The husband looked at the wife and said, honey, I see you bought a monkey. He said, yes. He said, okay. So he kept looking around. The monkey was looking at him, and he was looking at the monkey. He said, well, honey, where does monkey go sleep at every night? The wife looked at him and said, he go sleep in the bed like you sleep in the bed. Went on, and he said, well, where's he go eat at every night, honey? He said, what you think? Where you think he go eat at? He go eat at the dinner table like you eat at the dinner table. And then he really got more defiant, and he got upset a little bit more, and he said, well, what about the smell and the odor in this house? What's going to happen with that? The wife looked at him and said, I got used to smelling you all these years. I guess the monkey can too. We're talking about patience, understanding, and acceptance. And you talk about leadership. You got to understand who you're dealing with, and especially when you're in a leadership role. You got to understand about patience. You got to understand about understanding. You got to understand about acceptance. Not everybody is going to be like you. And that's when you find your most effective leaders. They will knowing how to roll up the eyes. I say, being from the South, obviously, roll up your sleeve and get in the foxhole. Willing to pay the price to be successful. Everybody want to be a winner. Everybody would like to be a winner. It's like the old adage, I've said many times, everybody want to go to the dance, but most of them don't want to pay the admission to get in. It's a price to be paid to be successful. It's a price to be paid. And so, with that being said, I've always had that mentality that I led by example. I wasn't really, like the good doctor said, I don't talk a lot. I mean, obviously I'm talking now, but that was never my thing. I'm like the old Missouri mule. You got to prove it to me. Show me. I went to work. It wasn't no secret why I stayed in New York for all those years to play for the New York Football Giants for 11 years. I went to work. This old adage I use, and I tease with a lot of people, and I tease with kids all the time, and I always said, somebody going home and it's not going to be me. I'm going to get the job done. Somebody going home and it won't be me. And I meant that. I meant that. It's all about the positive mindset. It's all about the mind over matter. And you talk about a little bit here about strategy. When we talk about leadership, and you talk about strategic planning, and I talk obviously when I'm lecturing in my class at Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey, I talk about that. And I talk about what is a strategy. It's only but a plan of action. How you going to take that plan of action and put it into effect to be effective for you. You talk about SWOT analysis. We all know that many of you businessmen and women in here know about the SWOT analysis. The strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's about the role that you're going to play and how you're going to execute it. The things that I talk about a lot, and I've had a great opportunity to talk about that. My man out of New Jersey here, Rich Bertetti from Gator Communications, the printing company, as you saw in the back there, some of the materials. Now, he just didn't just start yesterday and became successful in what he's doing. He started out 30 years ago. He had a vision. And we've talked to it many times, engaged in many conversations since I've been affiliated and been friends with this guy in the last 3 years. And you talk about vision. It reminds me of the old Japanese proverb, vision without action is just a daydream. And action without a vision can be a nightmare. You got to have a vision. Gated Communications not being successful because they didn't have a vision. They had a vision. I appreciate Rich Patetti for what he stands for as a man. Obviously, he's a businessman flying all the way from New Jersey down here this morning to be with me today. I also want to thank, again, Miss Jackie Miller from UNC TV for having us on TV this morning. So you will see me grinning Thursday if you watch the North Carolina Now, I guess it is, network this Thursday coming. I did an interview this morning. So I appreciate that too. But the thing is, who will I be? And I realized a long time ago that I was going to make it happen in life. I was destined to try to be great. Not trying to be better than anybody, but trying to be great, the best that I could be. I will share this story with you also. I call it the toilet bowl story. I was 11 years old. My mom and my grandmother, unfortunately, I was a product of a broken home. My mother and father divorced, I guess, when I was 3 years old or whatever it was. She worked in a textile mill for many years down in Richmond County. We were trying to make ends meet. And I used to tell them, when I grow up, when I get big, as I would say, I'm going to win myself a scholarship. I'm going to play football. I didn't know what college I was going to go to, but I was going somewhere. And I used to tell them I was going to play. Obviously, I ended up at North Carolina State University. But I told them that I was going somewhere. Not only was I going to play in the NFL, be on TV, that I was going to even play in the Super Bowl. So you can only imagine that being in a small town in Richmond County in the Sand Hills, and my grandmother and my mother looking at each other like crossing their eyes and rolling their eyes and looking like, yeah, this boy going crazy. Talking about being on TV, and much less being on the Super Bowl. Well, I remember distinctly telling them, I said, I'll prove it to you. You'll see one day. You can laugh now, but you'll see one day. Well, 14 years later, I was playing in my first Super Bowl. Yes, I remember distinctly. Unfortunately, my grandmother was ill at the time in Richmond County. Wasn't able to go out to California. My first Super Bowl, Pasadena, California, the Rose Bowl. Played against the great Denver Broncos and that great quarterback they had named John Elway. And I remember that night before the game, I called back home in North Carolina here in Richmond County in Hamlet, there talking to my grandmother, engaged in conversation. We was just talking about the game and what it was going to be like and good luck and all this good stuff. And I remember before I hung up the phone, I said, Mama. She said, what? I said, what you think about that old toilet bowl kid now? The moral of the story is believing is achieving. I believed. I believed early on. Early on. Remind me of an old great quarterback, I wouldn't say a quarterback, but a coach. Well, he was a player himself, once upon a time himself. His name was Paul Bear Bryant. He played and coached at University of Alabama. And I remember a quote I read somewhere where he said that winning might not be everything, but it sure as heck be coming in second place. My point here is to you, why are you in business? Now, if you just like coming in second place and be the runner-up, and you just don't mind not making your quotas and making all your deadlines, if you just want to just get by, then that's on you. But the bottom line for me is I like winning. I hate losing. Oh, Perry Williams is so loser. That you're right, I am. My mother used to say to me and my grandma, well, what's wrong with this boy? This boy going crazy. He every time he crying and snotting, carrying on and boo-hooing because he lost a little league game, it was more than a game to me. It was a way of life for me. It was about building my character, building that motivation, that determination that carried over. And I tell young people all the time, don't never accept losing. Just learn how to deal with it. The sun gonna shine another day now. Yeah, it was cloudy today, but I saw later on, I think the sun came out a little bit, little rays of it anyway. It's gonna always be another day. So I learned that early on. And I have always lived and died by that. Refuse to lose, refuse to be denied. Remind me again, I said this when I was here last time, about the great Eleanor Roosevelt, where she once said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dream. Do you believe in your dream? She also said, and I read somewhere what she said about the tea bag. She said, women is like a tea bag. So you never know how strong they are until you put them in hot water. So I never forgot that. So you got to understand, I grew up in a household with two women. I had a grandmama and a mama. So yes, you can only imagine that. I had them 2 feet on my neck and 2 feet on my, you know what, on my rear end too. My grandma was a nice type of lady, was, you know, her attitude was my way or the highway, son. Get it done. There's no easy way. If it was easy, then everybody would be doing it, trying to be successful. So I learned that early on about hard work, dedication, hustle. Do what I'm supposed to do. Do it the right way. Don't take no shortcuts. Do it the right way. Talk about a little bit about one of my favorite people. God bless the dead. He's dead and gone now. But I miss him, and I think about him often, quite often. His name was Jim Valvano, the great coach from North Carolina State University. Now, you can imagine, well, you talking about Jim Valvano. He was a basketball coach. You played football. You ran track at NC State. We had made a connection. And so that's how I know then how God works in mysterious ways. You're talking about faith here now, a little bit now, and belief systems. Well, going into my senior year at North Carolina State, many of you know about Raleigh, obviously. You know about Western Boulevard over there by China 5, over there in that area. I was walking down up the hill, actually, from the campus. So I was coming up, going towards my dorm at the time. And I remember distinctly a little white Mustang, never forget it. Joe passed me going 100, felt like it going 100 miles an hour. Joe passed me on the highway, on the street. All of a sudden, this car did a 360 in the highway. And it was coming back towards me. And when I realized that it was Coach Valvano. Now, he had been in NC State about 3 years at that time. I got there in 1979. He got there in 1980. And I remember him coming up and saying, Perry, how you doing? And I was kind of stunned, to be honest with you, because I didn't really know Coach V. I didn't think he ever knew my name. He said, I want you to come tomorrow to my basketball camp for kids. And I looked at him and remember distinctly saying to Coach, I said, Coach, I'm not a basketball player. He said, I know you're not a basketball player, but show up tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and I want to introduce you to my campers. So I remember going on up the hill, and I went in there, I taught all the football players, and where I was staying there, I said, Coach V want me to come to this camp tomorrow. I'm not a basketball, I can't talk about basketball to them. I know a little bit about basketball, but that's not my thing. And so I kind of tried to find some notes together, and I ain't never spoke in front of nobody at that time, and wrote down a few things maybe I might want to say to these kids or whatever. And I was pacing up and down in my room a little bit throughout the evening. And remember the next day, I got there down in Reynolds Coliseum. Remember, a lot of you probably remember that. And brought all the kids up. Coach V called them up, a couple hundred kids. He said, I want you guys to meet somebody. He said, see this guy right here? His name is Perry Williams, and I don't want you to ever forget his name, because this guy is going to be great in the NFL. See, he will play a long time on TV. You will see him a lot on TV in the coming years. And then at the end of that, he said, thank you, Perry, for coming. And he walked off and got the campus going again. So my little notes and all my first little speech was thrown out the window with that. But from that point on, he was right. 1 year later, I got drafted by the New York Football Giants. And as many of you may know, Jim Valvano is from New York. He's a New Yorker, and the New York Giants is his favorite team. And when he was so ecstatic about it, so over the years, about 4 years later, I was playing in my first Super Bowl, as I said earlier. And Coach Valvano and I got a little report. He started sending me emails, or not emails at that time, but sending me telegrams and different things, and then good luck, well, I'm rooting for you. And we would always conversate and talk whenever I had a chance. And I remember, talking to him, and he was just all ecstatic about me playing with the New York Football Giants, and we became good friends. And I actually had a great opportunity and the pleasure to speak with him. Obviously, I was the co-keynote, and he was the keynote in New York City. I remember doing my little spiel, my little speech up there, and then it was time for him to come up, and he patted me on the back, said, "Good job, champ." He used to call me champ at the end after I got in the pro. He said, and then he went up there and he just jumped all over me. He said, "You know what? Perry Williams is a great guy. He's my man." He said, "I remember Perry when he was at NC State, he was walking around with T-shirts and shorts on and sneakers, and now he's wearing Italian clothes and Italian shoes, and he was just jousting me, but it was all fun and games, and it was great. But Coach V, my moral of this whole thing I just told you, he was a man of vision. He could see what a lot of people could not see. I was going over and reading some stuff recently and talking with some people, and I remember something that resonated with me about Jim Valvano. He was a man of great vision, and he believed in himself. And he got that over to all his ball players to believe. Hey, everybody know about 1983. Everybody know about the Cardiac Kids. Everybody know about NC State won the national championship because those guys believe. The Dirk Wittenbergs, the Sidney Lowe's, the Thurl Baylors, the Cozell McQueens, and on and so forth, a lot of these other guys that played with that, because they believed. And that's a wonderful thing when you're talking about in a leadership role, when you get your people to believe in you, because you're willing to pay the price with them. That's how you become successful. When you're willing to roll up your sleeve. Anybody can delegate. I tell people, what's the difference between being a manager, and being a great leader or a leader in general. Anybody can delegate. A manager, they delegate information. They delegate the workload or what they're going to do. A real leader will roll up his sleeve, he get in the foxhole and go to work with you. That was always my thing. As a player, all the way through my grade school years, all the way up through high school, all the way through college, all the way through professional football, I believed. And I worked with my guys. I worked with my teammates and let them know that I was there for them. And I gave them my all every time I walked on the field. I gave them my best, everything I had. Didn't leave nothing unturned, no stones unturned. It was great for me. I think about some of the other things that have happened with me. I think about a whole lot of different things. I think about when I talk to a lot of the young kids that I have some of these new programs that I'm going to implement back here in North Carolina. I call it the FFD1, the Focus from Day One program. You're talking about character building. You're talking about life skills. You're talking about getting yourself ready for the future. Our young people are our leaders for tomorrow. No disrespect to the older people, but your time is running, including myself, time is running out. And now we have to, it's a must to me, to get these young people ready for the future. It's time to pay it forward. Time to pass on the baton now for the greater good. Everybody it's the old adage, and I got some Native American Indian in me, no disrespect, but everybody want to be the chief. Nobody want to be the Indian sometimes. You got to understand what your role is. What is your role? I understood what my role was. It was quite easy, quite simple. When I played for the New York Football Giants, we had this guy by the name from that school over there across the water, over there across the river, I call it, University of North Carolina. An old guy named Lawrence Taylor. We had a lot of great ball players. We had a lot of guys from Harry Corson, another Hall of Famer. I played with a lot of Hall of Famers. But we understood each other's role. We had to work as a team to be successful. I tell people all the time, greatest Lawrence Taylor was, he could rush the quarterback like nobody's business. He could get sacks all day, but don't ask him to cover a receiver. He couldn't even cover his own shadow. I had to do that. That was my job. That's what we call roles, understanding what your position is in your company. Everybody ain't going to be the president, the CEO, skinning and grinning. That ain't going to get it like that. Somebody got to have a role. Somebody got to be the controller. Somebody got to work on the production. Somebody got to do whatever that role is, try to be the best at it. Try to be the best. So I always understood my role. I want to be the best at my position as a defensive back, as a cornerback for the New York Football Giants. And I tell young people this that we have here in the audience today, as I said again early on, to reiterate what I said. I lasted a long time. Average lifespan for an NFL football player is 3.5 years. I played 11 years. I refused to lose. I refused to be denied. I refused to quit. But not only did I do that, but I went to work every day. Every day with one thing on my mind is to get the job done. And so I think a lot of due to the longevity maybe with my organization, was I the greatest ball player that ever came through that organization? I don't necessarily think that, but I was one of the toughest because I refused to quit. And so they worked organization. They watched my work ethic. They watched how I carried myself, not only on the football field now for you young people, off the field. Yeah, I went about my business. I'm talking about this drug and alcohol awareness and all this old craziness that goes on out here. I had a purpose in mind. I remember distinctly, I share this with you also. My general manager for the New York Football Giants is not the guy now, Jerry Reese, obviously he wasn't in the organization at that time. He came in years later, but his name was George Young. And I remember 1983, and I got drafted, and he said some stuff that was profound to me, and it was quite, interesting. He said, son, come in my office, get ready to sign my first contract. Had my papers on there. My lawyer had already got all the paperwork in order for me, and all I had to do was sign my name. He says, look, we know where you're from. We know you're from that little town down in North Carolina called Hamlet, Richmond County area. We know your mama worked in a textile mill. We know your grandmama helped your mother raise you. We know all of that. So all you got to do is these three things, and you'll have a long career here. He said, keep your nose clean, son. Don't go out there in New York City. Don't let New York City get your heart all messed up now. Them bright lights and movie stars and all that camaraderie, don't let that get you. He said, don't do that. He said, make sure that you work hard every day. And thirdly, listen to the coaches and give it all you got. And you'll play at least 10 years. Well, he told me a lie, but it was a good lie because I played 11 years. It's due to your work ethic. And I tell young people, and I tell people in general, govern yourself accordingly because you never know who's watching. And yes, these people were watching me. And you got to understand, I work for 2 billionaires, not millionaires, billionaires. The Williams NAFE family and the Jonathan Tisch family. The Tisch, I want half of New York. But they undercover. They don't let you know. They're not no Donald Trumps of the world, mouthing off out there. These people go about their business. So I had a great opportunity to work for an organization. The Tisch family came into my organization my last 2 years with the New York Giants. Well, it was a great experience because we won, and we won in the right way. We govern ourselves the right way. Now, I'm not going to tell you that everybody did the right things. Yeah, we had a couple guys that got in some trouble and did some knucklehead stuff, yes. But I realized I got to govern myself accordingly. I got to go about my business. And that's my message to the young people of the world. Do what you have to do. Govern yourself accordingly because you never know who's watching. People watch and give you opportunity. And I made the best of my window of opportunity. I mean, it was quite simple. Come out of school from NC State and go and get this job, or go to New York and get that job. There was a whole big difference in that pay scale. It was like this. And I said, I'm going over there. So I stayed away from what the young people think about. I talk about a lot with the peer pressure. Yeah, I had a lot of it. Yeah, obviously being in New York City, as I said, a whole lot of opportunity. My grandmother would say, that's the city you can't put the lights out, son. That city stay up all night long, so you don't try to put all the lights out. Go get your rest. Do what you called to do. So that was my mission, to go do what I was called to do. That's important. That's important for all the young people and for all the people in the business world. Now understand the teamwork concept, understanding each other's role, understanding what your purpose and your goals are. Remind me of the great Newt Rockne. Many of you have heard that name, the legendary football coach at Notre Dame, when he once said that, he was quoted saying that he loved bad losers because good losers lost too often. You get it? Hey, when you accept where you're at And you don't mind not meeting your team goal. You don't mind your company not doing that way. You're just trying to get by. That's what you're going to end up being at the end. I believe in winning. I believe in trying to be the best that I can possibly be. That's always been part of who I am, my DNA. Yes, it was a hard journey. Yes, I had to sacrifice. I did all of those things, but I refused to lose. I remind me of Dr. Martin Luther King. He said when he once said that I'd rather be a man of conviction than a man of conformity. Conformity meaning idle, sitting by, twiddling my thumb, worried about what the next man or the next woman gonna do. Take charge. Take charge of your life. Be the best that you can be. Yes, I talk about this when I'm in my class with the class and leadership class in New Jersey at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Don't worry about it. Some people say, well, we got issues with the boss lady. We got issues with the boss man. You go do your job. Yes, you're going to have times when boss man or the boss lady might have some issues with you, but you go to work and you work hard. I will tell you this. I will share this with you. Yeah, well, Bill Parcells was my coach my first 8 years. Bill Belichick was my secondary defensive back coach as well as defensive coordinator coach. Yeah, I didn't necessarily see eye to eye with Bill Parcells in many ways, but I went to work every day, did my job, did what I had to do. I remember distinctly he was saying, well, sir, I can see that you got a strong attitude in the sense of a positive attitude. I came here to work. And come here for nothing else. I didn't come here to make commercials. I didn't come here to do all this other endorsement stuff. I came here to play football. That's my job. So yeah, when I say that, I mean to you young people, mental toughness, the steel wheel mentality. I outwheeled him. He worked there 8 years as a coach. He left. I was still there. Impose your will, you young people. Learn how to impose your will. Yes. Is it easy? No. But only the strong survive. The weak will fall to the side now. That goes in business. That's why I used to hear these successful businessmen and successful women or whatever, it's the different organizations or companies or whatever it is, business, banking or education institutions or whatever, pharmaceutical companies, television companies, media, whatever. Why are they successful? Because they have a steel wheel mentality. That's my belief. And it doesn't matter what kind of job you have. It doesn't matter how you begin. It's how you end. That's my philosophy. It's how you end. That's the key. I say this to a lot of young people, the 3 Ds, the 3 do nots. Do not quit anything you start now. Do not let anyone outwork you. And do not be intimidated by anyone or anything. Work hard. Believe. Believe that you can achieve. Goes right back again. Who will I be? You got opportunities to do whatever you want to do. You're looking at a living example of it. I refuse to, when all the naysayers down in my hometown in Richmond County, Prairie Wee, he just got a scholarship. He go to North Carolina, say, well, he might get a chance to play. North Carolina State, that's a big university. They got a lot of guys and other kids from other states and throughout the country coming in there, and, he might get a chance to play. Well, I played for, 4 years at NC State. Out of the 4 years, I started 3. And then they said, well, when he got drafted by the New York football, that's New York, the big time up there. That's the NFL. Maybe he get a chance to play for a little while. Well, many of them thought maybe 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 years. Guess, as you all know, 11 years later, when the smoke cleared, I was still standing. I was still standing. I remember the story, this is the true story. Lawrence Taylor again, Chapel Hill boy. My first year I didn't play. I sat on the bench. I rode the pine. I got splinters and all that good stuff my first year. By 84, I was a starter, so I started for 10 years. Out of 11 years, I started 10. And I remember my first game, and I ran on the field, getting ready for our first game of that particular year, and against the Philadelphia Eagles. We got another NC State boy who was playing for that team at the time. He's also from Richmond County. His name is Michael Quick, wide receiver. And we was getting ready to play this game against the Eagles, and it was a 30-second timeout, the TV timeout. And I remember in the huddle, and Lawrence Taylor said, all right, homeboy, you out here now. He said, remember, this is not ACC football now. This is the NFL. You know what NFL stands for? I said, yeah. He said, not for long. So you better get your behind in gear. Let's get it. And so with that in mind, I told him, don't worry about it, big man. When the smoke cleared, I'll be still here. Well, 10 years later, when the smoke cleared, I was still there beside him. Lawrence Taylor and I retired in the same year, 1994. He played 13 years. There's only 3 guys, original guys from the Giants, from 1979 through the 1983 class. In 1994, of those years, there's only 3 guys left, all the original guys in 1994. It was a guy named Phil Sims. He's a commentator on TV now, one of my teammates, 15 years. Lawrence Taylor, Chopper Hill, obviously, 13 years, and me, 11 years. I refuse to lose. Now, mind you, these 2 guys were franchise players. They was first-round picks. I was a 7th-round pick. Nobody even thought that. Okay, that he'd play maybe 3, 4 years, maybe, 5 if he's lucky or whatever. But I refused to listen to him. I went to work. And I had one thing on my mind, is to prove them all wrong. When all the naysayers said I couldn't do it, I silenced them all with my steel will mentality. And that's how I live my life now, the steel will mentality. And I go back again, and my man Rich Patetti back there, I said, Rich, listen, man, I don't know nothing a whole lot about printing. He said, you don't need to know, I'm here. He said, I'll teach you some stuff. And so, yes, I'm over at that company in New Jersey. I'm still learning a lot of stuff. But I got that competitive edge and drive about me. I want to learn. I want to be the best that I can possibly be. Everybody got a role. And I guess as I tease with him, sometimes I carry the water bucket for you, Rich. I carry the coffee cup if I have to, because I'm willing to be a team player. I'm willing to learn and do the little things to give myself a chance to be successful. And that's what it's all about. And as I conclude, I won't bore you any longer. As I conclude, I would say this. Somewhere I read this. 100 years from now, it won't matter what kind of house you lived in. 100 years from now, it wouldn't even matter what kind of car you drove. 100 years from now, it wouldn't even matter what kind of bank account you had. But just maybe, 100 years from now, the world may be different because you made a difference in someone's life. Keep making a difference, and good luck to each and every one of you. Thank you.